And it shall come to pass, if you diligently heed my commandments, that I command you this day, to love Adonai your God, and to serve God with all your heart and all your soul, that I will give the rain of your land in its season, the early rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your grain, your wine, and your oil. Take care not to be lured away to serve other gods and bow to them. For Adonai's anger will flare up against you, shutting up the skies, so that there will be no rain, and the ground will not yield its produce. And you will soon perish from the good land that Adonai is assigning to you. These verses come from the book of Deuteronomy on this past week's Torah portion, Eikev. These words are so central to our belief that our tradition placed them into the Shema, recited each morning and evening. Here, Moses speaks of a direct link between faithfulness to God and the health of the land. When Israel loves and serves God, the rains fall in their proper time, and the people enjoy abundance. When the covenant is ignored, drought and scarcity follow. For many of us, this language raises difficult questions. Does God really reward the pious with harvests? Does disobedience cause drought? It can sound like a kind of theological vending machine. Do a mitzvah, get a blessing. Obey, and you'll be rewarded. Disobey, and you'll be punished. I have always found fascinating how the early Reform movement wrestled with these questions, and beginning in the late 19th century, often removed the second paragraph of the Shema from their prayer books, wary of portraying God as a sort of cosmic bookkeeper, and emphasizing instead an ethical, universal monotheism. Yet many other rabbinic voices, ancient and modern, have offered another way to read and interpret these verses, not as supernatural payback, but as moral language describing the real consequences of human action. The text becomes less a threat and more of an invitation. Our choices shape the world around us, or put in another way, every action has a reaction. In this view, the Torah's promise is not magic. It's what we could call a moral ecology, a society that protects the vulnerable, that acts with integrity and honors its commitments, creates the conditions for stability, for peace and resilience. And a society driven by greed, neglect, and exploitation will eventually erode those same foundations, and scarcity, whether literal or figurative, will follow. The Israelites would have understood this in the most tangible way. Rain for them was survival. A community that lived by covenant, caring for the land, sharing its produce, respecting limits, would be more likely to thrive over time. On the other hand, a community that ignored those principles would find its fields depleted and its people divided. Still, this does not make the problem of injustice disappear. Even in biblical times, people saw that the righteous sometimes suffered and the wicked sometimes prospered. Rabbi Robert Gordis points out that the challenge was less acute for biblical Jews because they lived before the rise of individualism. In the First Temple period, God's justice was understood communally, not individually. Blessings and curses were experienced by the people as a whole, rain and crops, not as personal fortunes. That is why in this passage, the Hebrew shifts from singular you to the plural you all, underscoring that this is about collective responsibility. For our post-Enlightenment sensibilities, shaped by individual rights and personal destiny, this can feel foreign. And history, from the Crusades to the Shoah, has shown us that even entire communities can be victims of unjust suffering. The rabbis acknowledge this, offering two complementary responses. Some placed ultimate justice in the Olam Haba, the world to come, where wrongs would be made right. Others admitted that God's justice is a mystery beyond our comprehension. As they taught, Schar mitzvah mitzvah, the reward for a commandment, is the opportunity to do another commandment. The truest blessing is the deepening of righteousness itself. And so, when we read these verses today, we can still hear them as a living invitation. They are a call to ecological, moral, and spiritual responsibility. The rains in these verses are not just water. They are a metaphor for the flow of blessing that comes when we live in harmony with God's purposes. The covenant is not just a set of rules. It is a relationship of trust between God and us, and among us as a people and as human beings. In Jewish thought, the land is not a passive stage for our lives. It is a covenantal partner. To live justly is to honor the divine presence within creation. To harm the earth is to harm that sacred bond, and none of us stands apart from this. Each choice, what we plant, what we consume, how we treat our neighbors, it ripples outward into our homes, schools, our cities, our synagogues, and all kinds of public institutions for many, many generations. Today, our reign includes the stability of our climate, the health of our ecosystems, and the cohesion of our communities. Our choices, whether to live with compassion or selfishness, stewardship or exploitation, will determine whether the rains come in their seasons. Therefore, impress these my words upon your very heart. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. And teach them to your children, reciting them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up, and inscribe them on the doorposts of your home and on your gates, to the end that you and your children may endure in the land that Adonai swore to your fathers to assign to them, as long as there is a heaven over the earth. These words call us to carry Torah in the pulse of our hearts and the work of our hands, to make it part of our homes and our journeys, into the stories we tell our children, into the thresholds we cross. They remind us that faith is not a moment, but a way of living, morning and evening, here and away, now and for generations to come. And they hold before us a vision that our love of God and our care for this world will keep us rooted in the land, enduring in blessing.